Hello, this is Thomas, K4SWL. If you're new here, I like to do real-time, real-life amateur radio field activation videos. And today I'm at a park I haven't been to in about 4 months, but I used to come to all the time, the Zebulon Vance Historic Birth Site. And this is a wonderful little park. I used to come here all the time earlier this year because my daughters had a class nearby. So I was activating this almost weekly. And I've gotten to know the staff here, and it's just a wonderful spot to play radio. I called him this morning. I have a little time in the middle of the day here, and I thought I want to get back and just kind of visit Vance and just do an activation. So I had some gear in the car. So I sort of formulated in my head what I'd do today, and gave them a call, first of all, to ask if the picnic area had been reserved, which it had not. She said, "You're welcome to come on out and play radio." So that's what I'm doing. I walked out here, and then the first thing I noticed was somebody's cable. Someone's got a cable here. This is not mine. Someone's left a patch cable here. It's obviously done an activation recently. I should go in the logs and just see who's activated here recently, and that's probably who it belongs to. I won't make any fun of anyone leaving gear behind, because I once left a full antenna out here. A vertical antenna. It was my Chameleon Impasse 2.0. And it was a day I was in a really big hurry, and that thing blended in so well over there, I just didn't even notice it when I left. And no one noticed it here at this park for almost an entire week until the guy came out to mow out here. No one mentioned anything, told anything, and the park staff here, I was very apologetic, and they just got a big laugh out of it. So if I left an antenna system out here, an expensive antenna system, I can't make fun of someone leaving a 3-foot or 2-foot patch cord. But anyway, I'm looking forward to doing an activation today. But first, I'm going to do one of my Getting to Know You series. I've decided that that would be a really fun thing to do today, and I'm going to shake it up a little bit. I've only done 2 or 3 of these in the past, I guess, and today I'm going to talk about the Elecraft KX3, which is one of my favorite radios ever, and talk to you about what I love about it. The Getting to Know You series is not a review. It's really an opportunity to tell you what I really love about a radio. So it's a mostly positive take on the radio, because the radios featured in this series are all radios that are in my sort of permanent radio collection, my field radio collection. These are ones I have no intention of ever selling or doing anything with. I love using them, and I rotate them out all the time when I'm doing activations and stuff. So if you want a full review of the KX3, you can look at the review I made of it that's actually on the SWLing post, my other blog besides QRP, and I'll have all the information there. But let's settle down here and talk about what we're going to do today, because it's, I don't know how this is going to go, but if you've been following my channel for long and you're a subscriber, you know that you're just going to be along for the ride, and we're just going to discover this together, because I want to try something, frankly, probably kind of foolish. And that is, I want to talk a little bit about the radio. Normally what I do in the Getting to Know You series is I talk about the radio first. No, excuse me. I come out, I deploy an antenna, usually hook up the antenna, and then I talk about the radio, and then afterwards we do an activation. Today, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about the radio with the antenna hooked up, but about halfway through the Getting to Know You section, I'm going to start calling CQ. And the reason why is I've just got this crazy idea. So, by the way, let's talk about, I'll tell you about it as we go along here. Let's talk about the KX3. This is just really an outstanding field radio. This was introduced by Elecraft in 2013. I remember it very clearly because I went to Hamvention that year. I go to Hamvention almost every year, and found out about the KX3. And they were releasing this, and it looked sort of like their K3, but in this small field portable form factor here. And I was kind of blown away, frankly, and I think everybody else was too. Now, I should say, the KX3 does not come with these side rails. These are side KX panels that I bought about as soon as the fellow who makes these made them available. Probably within the first year or so of the KX3 being released, I bought these side panels because I like the idea of protecting the front panel of this. It's kind of wide. But normally you don't have that, and a lot of people don't ever get those, and that's perfectly fine. So yeah, this was introduced, and I just thought it was genius. And I think that Elecraft just sold just bazillions of these, and this is 10 years ago. Today is September 12th of 2023, and this was released probably May of 2013. So it's been out there for 10 years and really still holds its own. I think there's a big backlog on ordering the KX3 on the Elecraft side. They're behind on a lot of their orders due to multiple factors. But once this became a part of my radio collection, in fact, what happened was I asked Elecraft for a loaner to do a review. I think I was reviewing it for, back then, the Monitoring Times magazine. And they sent me a loaner, and I put it on the air just a little bit, and wrote them back and said, is there any possibility I can just go ahead and buy this radio? So they sold it to me for the price I would have paid at Hamvention that year for ordering it at Hamvention. And so I just went ahead and bought it. I bought it before the review was over. I bought it almost immediately because I knew I didn't want that. I was not going to be able to send this radio back to them. So I was pretty happy about that. So this is what, serial number 3322, I guess, on mine. Some of the things that really make the KX3 so appealing is the portable size. This is small, this is actually pretty small. I'm holding it in my hand here. It's almost like the front faceplate of a larger radio, like the K3 or something. But it's the entire radio. This is an entire HF rig with a built-in speaker. And inside, there are actually, there's a place in here where you can put in AA batteries if you want to. Now, it's not as efficient as like the KX2 with batteries, if you're using these little AA batteries, but there's actually a battery holder in here, like you can see. Now, I don't use that a lot, I'll be honest. I've used it for primarily listening as like a shortwave radio receiver when I have my in loops in here or something, because I really can't do a very long activation with internal batteries. If you use these advanced lithium batteries that are non-rechargeable, you can actually fit more time. You can actually do an activation with those, but they're expensive batteries and they're not rechargeable, so I just don't use them. I don't use them a lot. I just tend to use an external battery pack, and the radio is super efficient with batteries, so one 3 amp hour battery will usually have me on the air for ages. So that's another thing about this radio. I think it draws something like, and don't quote me on this, you can look up the specs yourself, but I think it's around 130 milliamps on receive, maybe 140, which is very, very respectable. And it's really one of the lower current amounts you'll find on a general coverage, full-fledged, a QRP transceiver. So what I'm going to do right now is actually go ahead and hook up the antenna. And I have the Elecraft KX3 antenna, which is a 20-meter monoband antenna. And I'll be honest with you, what I'm about to do is pretty ridiculous. Even by my standards, I guess you'd say. It's pretty ridiculous. But I just thought it'd be kind of fun to do it. And I'll be really thrilled if I make one contact. What I'm planning to do is hook up this antenna, and I always forget to do this. I really need to go ahead and put my counterpoise on the radio first. I never think to do that. I'm hooking up this antenna, and I'm not running 5 watts. I am going to run 100 milliwatts. That's right, 1/10 of 1 watt, just to see if I can make some contacts. And the reason why I'm going to continue talking during this and talking about the radio as well, the radio will be operating, because I'm probably just going to put it on beacon mode, calling CQ POTA, because I don't actually expect to, I'll be thrilled if I make one contact. I'm not joking here. Like, I've never done this I have no idea what's going to happen, but I checked in with my buddy Mike, my propagation guru, this morning, and he said that we've been hit by CME, so it's really, really poor conditions right now. So the likelihood that I'll actually make a contact is super, super, super low. But I was thinking about this on the way over, and I thought it's just kind of irresistible to try. I'd like to try it anyway. And the reason why is I remember when I was a kid, I would go with my father and sometimes my grandpa out to a lake, and we would go fishing. And I didn't have a fancy fishing. My dad asked to go fishing. He said something about going fishing one time, and I didn't have a real fishing reel or anything yet, or my own gear. And he said, "You don't need it. Let's just go." And we went out and cut down some bamboo. I'm trying to remember where I have where I use on here for a grounding point. Let me just double check this because I can never remember. There we go. Yeah. And we would just go out. He said we'd cut cut some bamboo down, some cane down, attach some line to it, and we go to the lakeshore and see what would happen, And I caught fish doing that. Not a lot, I didn't have a lot of fancy gear, but it was kind of fun. It's so basic. It was kind of fun. And the idea that was really that you were just spending time out there hanging, I was hanging with my dad, my grandpa. We did it too at times. It was good fun. It was before I got my own fishing gear as a kid. So this is going to be very similar. The idea is I'm just going to set this out and see what happens. Just kind of have it running and see what happens. So the battery I'm using today, by the way, this is from my buddy Joshua at Tufton. This is a 5 amp hour LiPo battery that he's been tinkering with these and building them. He may start selling these. I'm not totally sure. When he does, of course, I'll link to it in my activation, my field report on QRP, and that's always linked in the description below. So let's go ahead and turn it on. Now, the KX3 and the KX2 have button combinations that you press to turn on the radio, and they actually show it on the side of the radio. You can kind of see it over here, but they show it here on and off. You basically press the band button and the ATU button at the same time, and then that turns on the radio. And they do that, of course, so that you don't, let me see if I can get the lighting adjusted here for you. There we go. I think you can see that, hopefully. Basically so that this thing won't turn on when you've got it in your gearbox or something like that. And it's pretty clever, and it works really well, and you get used to it very quickly. So why do I like the KX3? First of all, I think everybody was blown away by this radio when it was made, because the performance of this radio is simply outstanding. At the time, this radio, I believe, on Rob Sherwood's receiver test data table, was one of the very top ones, maybe the top one, like up there with Hilberling and a lot of really, really high-end radios in terms of its ability to do adjacent signal blocking and that sort of thing. But the specs on it are just amazing and are really good, especially if you have the optional roofing filter. And I have the CW roofing filter in here, and I installed that maybe 3 years ago or so. And it does make it just a bulletproof front end on this. This can very much handle any contest you can throw at it. Really high density RF environments, not a problem at all for the KX3. Why do I love this radio so much? Well, it's lightweight, it's portable. You can put internal batteries in it. When you plug in an external battery, it'll run forever on the thing. It'll go up to, I think on some bands, even up to 15 watts, but I mainly run it I usually run 5 watts, but when I'm running single sideband, sometimes I'll run 10 watts with it. It has a built-in ATU that's an exceptional ATU. Like it's the same one in the Elecraft KX2. It'll just tune anything. It's really, really an exceptional antenna tuner. You'll find matches to almost any antenna that you put out there. including, let me see here actually, if I've got this hooked up, I may have to adjust this, by the way. This is, or maybe not, 1.2 to 1 for this little tiny antenna. I could probably adjust this counterpoise a little bit and get a little bit better match on it, but it's really quick and it works. If I hit it again, there you go, 1 to 1. This antenna tuner will actually pretty aggressively look for a match, but if you have an antenna that is having a hard time matching after you press the ATU button once, if you press it again immediately afterwards, it goes into this very persistent mode where it's looking for a match. And I've never had, to my knowledge, an antenna that this could not tune. I have thrown all kinds of just really weird, no transformer wires at it, and it just seems to tune anything. Now, of course, it's not really tuning it. It's just finding a match, an impedance match to make the radio happy. But for MCOM, for POTA, for SOTA, for all those things, that's a really valuable feature, because if you can just put a little RF out, hopefully you can actually, make some contacts. Now let's see here. I'm going to go ahead. I've already started my log here. I'm going to talk more about this radio as I'm calling CQ, because I honestly don't think I'm going to make any contacts doing it this way, but we'll give it a go. Let me make my logs here. New logbook, put K4SWL at K dash, what is it, 6856, yep, 6856 dash 20230912. And Sparks on the air, save, and go down here to band. I'll put 20 meters, CW, power, I'm going to put 1 watt, but, or maybe I can put 0.1 watts. My park, K6856. And then to save this, I'm going to put KX3 at the top, because if I move off the screen, and then what I'll do is remove this entry, because it's not a real entry, but that kind of locks in all these settings here, so that if I move off screen and come back, it'll remember that I'm on 20 meters CW at this park. If I don't do that, it might not. Let's just see if anybody's here, and I'm going to start calling CQ. Now I'm going to leave it at 5 watts while I'm calling QRL. Okay, I'm not hearing anybody. So now what I'll do is change the power. Sorry. Press and hold that. I'll move the power all the way down to 0.1 watts. There we go. Let me make a picture of this so I can remember it when I'm going back later and looking at my photos. I can remember what I did here. There we go. Don't expect this to amount to anything. I'm not joking. I really don't think I'll get anybody, but I just thought, while I'm here just kind of chatting away, it'd be kind of fun if I'm just casting my line and just seeing if a fish randomly happens by here, right? Someone could very well just take over the frequency and not hear me, by the way. That's another issue you have when you're so low in power. So here we go. That's just going to kind of go away in the background. So one of the things I really love about the KX3 is the front panel. It's like one of the most ergonomic panels that you'll find on a field radio. Let me do this. Let me turn down the monitor volume. Turn it down a little bit while I'm working here. So just like that, I wanted to turn down the side tone level. It's just like a button press away, because there's a button for everything here, moving up and down bands, storing frequencies, your messages, recording and playing back messages, doing an ATU, engaging the ATU, just having a transmit tone, the attenuator, the preamp, noise reduction, noise blinker, notches, everything is on here. This is the RF section, that's the TX section here on these multifunction knobs. All the knobs, you have AF and RF gain, passband, the way that Elecraft does it, and you have the keyer, the mic, and the power on this knob here. And then over here you have all your modes, and where you can show text and go between 2 different VFOs, do split. It's just such a deep radio that even I have never really made it, you know, I've never really been able to explore literally everything this radio can offer. Like, I have done some interesting things, like I've sent PSK31 with this radio because it'll send it natively. So will the KX2. You key what you want it to send, and it translates it into PSK31 or RIDI, I believe. I mean, the fact that they even thought about that is just kind of crazy. Oh, look at that. 13 dB from, wow, from a station in Quebec. I would have never, ever guessed that the RBN would pick me up. Do I have the preamp on? I do, yes. See, and that's easy to see. The screen actually has a lot of information on it, a whole bunch of information. The menu system is really deep, and you can make lots and lots and lots of adjustments to the radio, like if you want to change, if you want to calibrate the ATU, if you want to turn on and off the ATU, if you want to turn on the different types of keying that you can do, if you want to use an electronic key or a straight key, or if you want to use Vox with a headset. I actually have the Heil Pro, I think it's called K2 boom headset that I use when I do single sideband in things like Field Day and stuff like that. It's kind of nice because you can wear the headset, the Vox works really beautifully, and is just truly, you know, really seamless. And it's easy to get into these menus and change all this stuff. Elecraft really thought about the ergonomics of this radio. And as much as I love the KX2, and the KX2 is like one of my favorite field radios ever, the KX3 is even more accessible button-wise. You know, I just did a post on QRPp where I was asking people about the best radios, the best transceivers for people with who are visually impaired. And the KX3 was really like one of the top ones because it has so many buttons and controls that are not deep. So for people who are visually impaired, it's easier for them to get around the radio. Plus it has CW feedback and a lot of other really interesting things that make it, you know, just a very accessible radio. I also find that it's a fairly rugged radio. It doesn't look it, you know, in a lot of ways it kind of feels like a kit radio. It really is a modular kit radio. This was, I think, the first. Now, maybe the K3 was the first modular kit radio that Elecraft designed. And so you can build it yourself just by putting it all together. You know, I don't think there's any soldering involved. Or you can have it factory assembled. And so the quality of it, you know, like these knobs are really easy to take off. It's not sealed maybe as much as you would find like an Icon radio, like a 705 or... Come back to me. Yay! Yay! You are my first contact. Okay. I am very excited. I would have not guessed I'd even get one contact doing this. So we're running 1/10 of 1 watt with an antenna that's 4 foot tall. So I'm not expecting a whole lot out of this. I'm sure there are a lot of people saying, gosh, I can't hear Thomas. Is he really there? So that's not the radio, really, or the antenna. That's just, it's kind of luck, if I'm being honest. I'll turn up the power in a little bit. Yeah, so that, you know, the KX3 is really gives you all of the features, controls, like granular control level that you would find on a contest radio. But here it is in a field radio that you can throw in your backpack and take with you anywhere. And I've dropped this thing. I have abused this radio over the years, and it's really held together. And one of the great things actually about it being an Elecraft radio and a kind of a kit radio, replacing the encoder, the knobs here, buttons, the screen, all that, it's not that hard. Like, they keep parts for all that stuff. So it's really easy to, you know, find any replacement parts you might need and do it yourself. You know, Elecraft, kind of one of their slogans has been that they're hands-on radio company, and it's the truth. They really are. They really are hands-on. The filtering in this radio is pretty darn phenomenal. Now, I will turn off, I've seen noise reductions on. I don't need that right now. That was probably on because I was at a place that was noisy before. There we go. Let me make sure the RF, nope. There we go. Thought something was a little wrong. I think of the last time I used this. I think the last time I used this radio, I had a lot of QRN and QRM, so I used noise reduction, and the RF gain, I put it down a little bit. I thought it sounded a little too quiet. But this is actually a pretty quiet radio. Now, running 1/10 of 1 watt into a 4-foot vertical antenna, anybody that comes back to me is going to be louder than I am, because it's unlikely they're operating with the same setup. So yeah. Anyway, Elecraft being who they are, they're really clever about how they design the radio. So when they make accessories like this AX2 antenna, it's designed to work. You just plug it in. It's at the right height. You know, it works seamlessly with this radio. And you can also front mount CW paddles on here. I've never done that, actually. I've never done that, but I do have a new key coming in that I will be able to mount to the front of this radio, and I'm looking forward to that when I do it. I do front mount my KX2. And actually, while I'm sitting here waiting, I could grab the KX2 and I could show you the difference in the size of these two radios. Let me do that since no one's calling me back, obviously. Let's grab this radio and I'll show you. We are literally shooting the breeze at this point. People have asked me too, like, which do you prefer, the KX2 or the KX3? Or if you were on an island and you can only have one of the two radios, which one would you want? Well, if it was my only radio, period, I'd probably go for the KX3 over the KX2. Since I'm a field radio guy, I like this because it's even that much smaller. And it does everything I need. But you can see the size difference here. I think you can. At least maybe if I put it down here, you'll see it even better. It's the KX2 is basically, I don't know, like 2/3 the size of the KX3. They had to cram the controls in here, so there are more multifunction knobs and things, but you get used to it really quickly. It does not have the level of controls that the KX3 does. The KX2 also lacks 160 meters and 6 meters. Those are two things that the KX3 has. So if you want to be on the top band or the magic band, 6 meters, either one of those, the KX3 will take you there, which is great. The KX3 also has an option for a 2-meter module that you can put in, and that 2-meter module will allow you to do 2 meters multi-mode. So I know a lot of people who've done that because they like using their, KX3 for doing multi-mode 2-meter contacts when they're doing SOTA and stuff. I'm just floored. I made one contact. I'm being honest. That just kind of blows my mind. Let's see. I'm going to, just to make it kind of fun, I am going to go in here and running 0.1 I'm just making myself a note. Sorry, this is taking so long. So what I'm writing in here is running 0.1 watts with the AX2. Will QRO soon. And I put that in my spot so people, when they see it, they'll get it. They'll understand, like, oh, that's what he's doing. So it'll take some of the mystery out when they're like, gosh, I can't hear him at all. Conditions today are really poor for doing this. Did I mention that? You know, the ionosphere is not in great shape. So, you know, this would be tough on any day, but it's even a little tougher today. Now, some of the weaknesses of the KX3 is the speaker in the KX3 I don't like as much as I do that of the KX2. The KX3, it's kind of a front-firing speaker down here. There's like a little speaker grill here. On the KX2, it's on the back of the radio, so you really do have to kind of put the little stand up in order for it to hear the speaker really well on the KX2. But the KX2 speaker sounds just a little bit better. I think maybe it's a little bit better positioned for using the radio chassis as an acoustic chamber, you know. So that's one of the things about the KX3 that's maybe a little bit of a downside. I mean, there really aren't a whole lot of other negatives about it, other than maybe the price. You know, this is an expensive radio. When you load it up, you're looking at $1,600 or more, depending on how you configure it. If you put in all the filters and boards and everything, it's a pricey radio. However, you're almost getting that K3 performance out of a field radio. And at home, I actually use the KX3 in the shack. It's hooked up almost all the time. And I keep it connected to my KXPA 100 amp, which is an Elecraft 100 watt amplifier. And I don't run, I'm a QRPer, so I don't run QRO very often, but when I need to, I've got it. I think everybody should always have, pretty much if they can afford it, the ability to do 100 watts when they need to, because there are times, maybe like for emergencies and things, where you may need to pump out a little more wattage, especially if you're doing single sideband, and especially if it's in a noisy environment and you need to punch through that, or if you're doing like nets and things like that, where maybe you don't have a very you know, strong signal, reliable signal into the net that you're trying to call. Sometimes it may make it a little easier on net control if you pump up the power a little bit so they can hear you better. I think in the field it's just not necessary for POTA and SOTA and stuff. I think QRO personally is just not necessary. The other thing though, so when you hook up the 100 watt KXPA 100 amp, since it's an Elecraft product, it does have quite a lot of cables coming on the side, but it's fully integrated. When you switch bands, when you tune and do everything, it's just native and it works really well. And so I use this as almost like a remote head, with all of the back end of the radio being the KXPA 100 amp that's up on a shelf. So this takes up much less space than a K3 would in my shack. And in my shack, that's a really important thing, because I don't have a lot of room in my shack. I have very little space in there. So that is like one of the really big benefits of having a KX3. It just takes up no space at all. It's like the control head, like I said, of another radio. So if you're mounting it in your car, which you could, that's another plus about the KX3. I think I'm going to get in here and move the power up to 1 watt. We'll see how this does. Now at 1 watt. So I can remember, what did I do? And I also brought like a wire antenna. If conditions are too bad today, I got a wire antenna I can always get back to. But I can't move to another band with this particular antenna. You can make the AX2 work on a number of bands, but you modify it. It's a monoband antenna once you've modified it with this little coil here. My AX1 antenna, I can actually operate on 40, 20, 17, and 30 and 15. I need to retune this. One thing about the AX1 and AX2 is they have a really high Q. Oh, I didn't mean to do that actually. Okay, well I brought down one more. I was going to just do this. Let's try this again. Not sure why it's showing the SWR so high. That doesn't make sense. I'm certainly not going to hurt the radio with 1 watt, even if the SWR is 2 point something. By the way, N8EYF actually logged on the POTA site and said that he gave me a 5.3. The QSK on this radio is outstanding. It really is outstanding. And why is this giving me a good match here? Doesn't make any sense. That's it. My ground wasn't on very well. That's what it was. My grounding point was not on. What it was a little loose. I'm just thrilled that I got one contact. The QSK is just silky smooth. These radios use pin diode switching, so there's no TR switching at all. There's no clacking, no nothing. So people who really like a really quiet, full break-in experience, Elecraft always provides that. Okay, let's go up to 5 watts. Not that that is crazy. Wow, 559. guess we've moved into the actual activation part of this, but I've been activating, but I just didn't expect anything to happen before. This was a real surprise. This needs to be a special QSL card right here. Oh, I need to take photos while I'm thinking about it. So, yes, whoops. So really, when people come to me and they're looking for they're asking me my opinion about a, radio, and they want a field portable radio that does it all, and they're not looking for a touchscreen, the KX3 is going to always be at the very top of my list. Now, if you're looking for a touchscreen radio or something that does the VHF, UHF bands and all that stuff, then really it's an ICOM IC705. The only downside to that radio is it doesn't have the ability to put a built-in ATU in it. So, that is something to consider. But honestly, I'm wondering now if I would have done a little bit better had... Okay. Oh, of course. These are pretty poor conditions today. This is actually not the day, to be very clear. On days when I know propagation's poor, those are not days I pull out the AX1 or AX2 antennas or any other kind of really small compromised antenna. Usually those are the days I pull out end-fed half waves, multi-band doublets, the larger antennas, a delta, like a vertical delta loop antenna, something like that, just something with a little more gain, because these are not really designed for this. These are just designed for fun. Now, I also love the encoder on the KX3. I like the fact that you can adjust the brake on it like you can on bigger radios. But it's nice to have this huge dominant encoder on a radio that you're using all the time. Let's keep this going now. So I have 4 contacts. Woohoo! four contacts. I need to take out my KX3 contact down here because that's not real. There we go. I was pretty surprised to reach into Oklahoma. Now, he gave me, what was it, a 429, I think it's 429 signal report. You don't expect a whole lot from this. But the funny thing is, like, if you just find a day with just reasonable propagation and you're using the AX1 or AX2 and you're doing SOTA or POTA, you'll have no problem at all doing your activation. Really, you won't. This has never, ever, ever let me down under normal conditions. Now, like I said, we had a CME today, and that's tough under any circumstances. It's not the time you pick out your compromised antenna, but I'm doing it today just because I felt like it. And I'm not advising doing this. I could very well end up throwing another... Was that it? Was it K3? Or did I get that wrong? There's QSB going on, so I gotta keep repeating this. Maybe that wasn't Brian. Okay. We'll see if that really was Brian. Maybe he's having a gear problem or he just can't hear me. I think the other person reported QSB, if I remember correctly. Oh. Oh, you're in Maine right now. That's John AE5X, and he is in Maine right now. He's normally in Florida. So I know he's traveling right now, and I'd forgotten he was heading up to Maine. I bet he's having a great time. It's a good time of year to be up there. Oh, another really cool thing about the KX3 and the KX2 is there's actually a full-on direct entry keypad here. See if I hear anybody. So what you do is you hit frequency entry button, and then here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are these buttons down here, and then 7, 8, 9 here. And there's even a decimal point. So you actually can do direct frequency entry, even though there's no like keypad like you would see like a telephone dial keypad or something on here. There's nothing like that, but it reuses these buttons to do that. And I use that all the time on both radios. The KX2 has it as well. This is just a clever thing about Elecraft radios. See, it has the same thing here. They're just, a little different. And that is one thing about switching between the KX2 and the KX3 is Very nice. I get to put in W3 PYF. And I'm going to put in his park, even though the system would connect it up anyway. 84. Golly, I've got such a great, this is going up into Maine and Massachusetts really well, and Florida. So it's got this like north-south pattern. However, I worked Joe in Oklahoma, so there you go. So we're up to 8 contacts. QRP with the AX2 antenna. I don't know, I get this feeling with the KX3 too that like I've got an entire shack here. I get that like a mini shack with the KX2. The KX3 just has everything that any full-size HF transceiver I've ever owned has, other than, you know, finals for 100 watts. I mean, this will do 10 to 15 watts or something. But I can hook it up to an external amp and do 100 watts if I want to, or 500 or whatever I want. But it just feels like a full-on contest-grade radio that you have here in the field. And I've never known anyone that's really been displeased with the receiver and the keying, the full QSK keying, the single sideband on this radio. It's a really good one. Again, you're paying for this. You know, you're paying for this kind of quality. It doesn't come cheap. But if you want one field radio that can double as both your field radio and your shack radio, and it's QRP, the KX3 is a really, really good choice for that. And I do think that if I were stranded, you know, I did a I don't know if I'd call it a contest, but kind of like this exercise once on the SW Welling Post, where I asked readers, if you were on Tristan da Cunha, which is it's a South Atlantic island below Ascension and St. Helena. It's in that same archipelago. It's the most isolated, inhabited island, I think, on planet Earth, right? And I said, if you only could have one radio when you're there, which one would it be? And I got some really good responses. A lot of this was just for receivers and stuff, but the ham radio operators, of course, mentioned the ham radio, so that they would take with that. I have to say, and I think the other thing was I limited the size because you had to carry it on like in a suitcase or something like that. And the KX3 would have been my choice then, without a doubt, because I can do my shortwave radio listening with it. I can do all the HF stuff I want to do with it. I can put a 2-meter module in if I want to do VHF. I wouldn't really do that there. And you really have everything you need. And you can easily port this out to an amp if you need more power at some point. It's fantastic. It's like kind of a QRP version of the K3 series. I'm listening around. It'd be nice if somebody else comes back because I can't move off of 20 meters. As soon as I get 10, if I can get 10, honestly, I'll have to move on because I actually have some more errands to run today. So sorry, this is probably less put together than even my other very informal getting to know you series. But I thought it'd be fun just to kind of be operating it at the same time. And I remember too, with the KX3, I put it up on the shelf probably 3 years ago or something. I had it, well, I should say, I had it up on the shelf for a while because I had my Mission RG01. Very nice. Did I get him in there, or did I not log that yet? Yeah, I did. I can't remember what I'm doing here. Logging in two places is not easy to do. But anyway, that's the whole thing about the KX3, is it really gives you everything. Now, it does get compared a lot to the IC705 these days. And I can't remember if I've actually made a proper comparison video of it, and maybe if I haven't, I will, because their prices are very similar. And the 705 is definitely another great contender. It's a wonderful radio. I think it's probably nearly as high performance as the KX3. And the 705 has a lot of features that the KX3 doesn't. You know, it covers all the frequencies the KX3 does, but it actually includes 2 meters and 70 centimeters standard. You know, it just comes with the radio. Now, you don't have an ATU option, like I said, on the 705, but you do have a battery option, and in fact, it comes with the radio, and you can even charge it with USB. So the 705 has a lot of really good points. For sure. But I'm more of a KX3 guy, if I'm being honest. I love my 705, and I take it to the field quite a bit. I use it in the shack a lot. I've been using it for FT8 because it's so easy to use with FT8. It has wonderful characteristics. But I tend to be more of a KX3 guy, if I'm being honest. Me personally. Now, I did a Getting to Know You series about the 705, so you probably want to check that out sometime. If I can think of it, and I know I won't, I'll link to it above. If I don't think about it, just mention and give me the time mark, and I'll put it in there after I've uploaded the video. I don't really edit my stuff, so that's one of the negatives is I don't always catch all these little things that I forget to do in the video. So I need one more contact to have 10, so I think I'll hang around until I do that. And hopefully we can do it here with the AX1. I'll just be patient. You sound like you're next door. We'll keep calling a little bit longer, but I have my 10 now. That's really nice. It's almost 1 o'clock. I do have a lot of errands to run, though. I love hearing these cicadas here. This is maybe the one thing I miss after we move into the colder months, but I'm a cold weather guy. I'm not a hot weather kind of guy. Why in the world I live in the Southeast, I'll never know. We had a really hot summer this summer, too. That'd be nice to get one more. Nice, but not necessary. So one thing I would tell you, I think when they made the KX3 and they put the speaker here, I think the speaker was kind of like, it was a very late addition add-in. Maybe it wasn't. They really think through their designs well, but it's kind of really not meant to be like a powerful in-shack speaker, right? Plus, when you have a radio that has such low current consumption, you're not going to have really robust audio. I mean, that's one of the things you give up with current consumption. Radios like Kenwoods and Tentecs and things that good to get you in the logs. Texas, nice. I'll take that 529. So another thing I just thought about with the KX3 and the KX2, if you can see it here easily, I really love, I don't actually, to be honest, I don't look at this when I'm transmitting and when I'm communicating. I never look at that. I'll leave it up here for you. But basically, the CW decode on this is about the best I've ever found in any radio. I think that the KX2 and the KX3 decoders are very, very good. Now, why do I not look at this for reference? I think it's a good thing to do if you're learning CW and you just want to double check your stuff, you know. I don't do it because it confuses me. I kind of have this one-track mind, and I can only do one thing at a time, and I can't watch this and think about what's being sent. I need to hear it myself, so I never really even look at that. But I was just looking at it now when N0VRP was sending, and I just keep thinking, wow, it really does a great job of decoding, and because those are not always very good in radios. They're just kind of very basic. They work on strong signals. The KX2 and the KX3, I think, are some of the best in the business. Okay, I've got what I want here, and I just need to move on at this point. But let's look at the map. Let's look at the QSET map here real quick. Look at this. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. And look where N8 EYF is in Florida. And we did that with 1/10 of 1 watt. The rest of these were with 5 watts. Maybe 1 watt? No, 5 watts. I think the rest of them were 5 watts. Not bad. Not bad at all. And we did this within, what, 40 minutes or so? 38 minutes? Yeah, not bad at all. Okay. I just got, okay. go. Got you. Nice to get you in there. Okay, let me take a photo before I forget of everything. Okay. Gotta make the photo look nice, right? Not always easy to do. I think the KX3 is a very photogenic radio, though. Okay, let me take a photo back here. Sorry, I gotta move you out of the way for a second. Let's get this in. There we go. Nice. I've already got a picture, I think, of... Do you have a picture of the logbook? Yes, very nice. That was fun. I mean, yeah, this didn't perform as well as an end-fed half-wave today, but we have kind of crappy propagation today, and I still got it done. So if you have a KX2 or you have a KX3 or you have another radio that you can hook an antenna up like the AX2 or the AX1, you know, there's no reason you can't activate a park, because today was a really bad day to do it, and we were still able to do it. And look how small this is. It just takes up no space at all. I keep this in a little pack here. And super easy. I'll undo the problem I was having with the SWR, if I didn't make it really clear, is that this was not on tight. I tightened it up and that cleared it up immediately. So if you ever have that same issue, now you'll know why. It made me think, like, what could be going wrong? Because these are very stable antennas. Now, they do have AX1s and AX2s and antennas like this, the MFJs, the Comets, and those that are really compromised. They have a very high Q, which means that their bandwidth is very narrow. And since they have a narrow bandwidth, if you move off frequency very much, you need to get another match on the antenna. And so sometimes they can be a little flaky and kind of picky about, I don't know, things probably like ground conductivity and body capacitance for sure, all can affect how well that antenna will perform. So that is a factor to consider when you're using a little compromised antenna like that. If something's not going right, it probably just needs to be rematched or double check your connections, because they're going to be not very resilient to any kind of change like that. You know, they're going to be more picky about it. See, now here's the other thing. Once I've got this, I have this Lexan cover on the KX2, and once it's on here with these side KX panels, really there's nothing that can damage this. You see all those scratches and stuff on here? I just throw this in a pack and not worry about it. Really, the only protruding thing at all is the BNC, and this is pretty well reinforced. You can see it's on like the chassis of the radio. I'm not worried about that being hurt. Elecraft thinks through all that stuff. Very solid radio. These do come up for sale, used sometimes, and they're pretty pricey when they do, but you can get a deal on occasion. My buddy Max, maybe he's watching this, he got a killer deal on one of these maybe 2 years ago at the Shelby Hamfest. So it does happen. Maybe it was only 1 year ago. Maybe he got it last year. So it's really, you do find good deals on occasion. where people are selling this to get a KX2 or get a IC705 or one of those other similar radios, you know, that can be the case. So, well, I'm very pleased, very, very pleased. Had a great activation yesterday, and this was a really fun one today. I know with these Getting to Know You series, my idea is I just spend a little more time with the radio than I normally do and talk about the things I like about it. But it's just less formal. I don't have that wide angle approach I use with my reviews. And this one is just, this radio is just such a solid, pleasurable radio to use. You really can't go wrong with it. If you've decided to get a KX3, you really can't go wrong with this radio. If you like everything about the KX3, but you want it to be a little smaller, then get the KX2. If you don't mind not having 160 meters and 6 meters, which I don't. I rarely use those two bands. The 6 meters can be really fun, and so can 160, but I rarely use it for SOTA and POTA. I mean, I've only used 160 once or twice, and I've used 6 meters. I've maybe made 3 or 4 contacts in 6 meters because the conditions have never been great when I've been out for that. But it's you can't go wrong with the KX2 or the KX3. But the KX3 is the one I'd take on Tristan da Cunha for my for living there for a few years. You know, this is a great one. And since it's so miserly with current, and you just don't need much of a battery, this is almost overkill for the KX3. I use a 3 amp hour battery. Most of the time I'm running these, and that'll take me through probably 3, 4, 5 activations, depending on how long they are. And so you really can't go wrong with it. Anyway, I really appreciate you joining me today and allowing me to go on and on about this, and for taking the AX1 out on a bad day and still having a really good activation. I just can't believe I made that contact with 1/10 of 1 watt with the AX1. Now, I've done that before. I've got maybe 1 or 2 videos where I've run 100 milliwatts and done, you know, an activation and had a great time with it. I couldn't tell the difference in the amount of contacts I was making. You don't have to operate with a lot of power, but to then combine super, super, super low power, like not even walkie-talkie power, with an antenna that's like walkie-talkie size, and to make a contact in Florida from North Carolina. And he gave me a 5.3 or a 5.39, I guess. And he actually put that in his spot for me too. So the fact that's in there, I mean, that's pretty amazing. That's the amazing thing about HF radio that I love. So I'm going to pack up the rest of this stuff. I've got to go out, grab some lunch, and then head back into town, run some errands, and pick up my daughters. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much to my Patreon and Coffee Fund supporters. You make all this possible. Like I say, I would go out and do activations anyway. This is something I love doing, but it takes time to make a video. Even with no edits, it takes time to write up my field reports, and I'd still do them. I'd still do both of them, but your support means that I do that more often, because it helps pay for the time I'm not doing something else, and allows me to open it up to write up my field reports and everything. I spend a good 4, maybe even 5 hours per field report and video I put up, just with everything I have to put in it. Now, a lot of YouTubers will laugh at that, because they probably spend, 10, maybe more hours just editing one video that's short. My videos are really long. They have no edits, or the edits they have are super simple, and sometimes unintentional. I recently did one where I was on Bearwalla Mountain, and my camera fell, and when it fell, it hit it so hard it actually damaged the file somehow of that chunk of the video, and I lost that. So there's some edits like that I can't help, but I really do appreciate this. It makes this all possible, and to do the thing I love doing, especially since I don't do monetization on my videos. At least I don't right now. The way YouTube keeps changing, I realize I'm probably going to have to start it at some point, just if for no other reason to have control over what they put in the videos. They do host this stuff for me, so, I guess they got to make money somehow, of course. And so they do put ads in, even if I'm not getting the revenue from it. If you are a Patreon supporter, I also provide links to Vimeo, where I also upload all of my field videos, and those you can actually download, and they have no ads whatsoever because I control that, because I pay quite a serious amount each year to store all my videos there. And it also acts as a backup to all of my files, so I'm not just on YouTube in case something weird would happen with YouTube at some point. So like I've always said, I'm not really a YouTuber per se. It's just YouTube's a really nice place to put my videos, and I like having them backed up because I don't ever want to lose them. So Vimeo makes that possible, and you make Vimeo possible. So thank you so much. Anyway, enough talking. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Hope you get a chance to go out and play a little radio, maybe hang with some ham radio friends, and fit in a little radiotherapy, as I like to call it. Doing little parks on the air, summits on the air, whatever makes you happy. Islands on the air, churches on the air, trains on the air. Go out and OTA. Take care, everybody. And until next time, 7 3s.